Talk about your take on the Oscars last night.
Well, I think that it was an important moment for both the Me Too and the Time's Up movement. However, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in front of and behind the camera. I mean, you had several hours of pre-Oscar show with Ryan Seacrest as the host, and yet he has been accused of sexual assault. And so one wonders why he would even have him standing in front, right? We had Gary Oldman win last night, and there were allegations about him as well. And so there's still a lot to be done, and there seems to be some inconsistency with respect to who is pushed to the side and who is allowed to continue in their regular job. In addition, with respect to the diversity of the nominees, you know, as you said, Jordan Peele was the first black person and just the second person of color to win Best Original Screenplay in 90 years. And so the fact that we are still talking about firsts is
Hi, everybody. This is Information Man. Welcome. I'm going to talk about Jordan Peele. The brother won the Oscar for the movie, you know, Get Out. Very good screenplay. He won an Oscar for original screenplay. He's the first African-American brother to, or person in general, to win an Oscar for an original screenplay. So I definitely want to give the brother some big ups on his achievement. I have to admit that the movie was excellent. It was well produced, had a lot of hidden messages in it. I mean, you know, it was really weird, you know, white people abducting black people in order to use their bodies because, hey, we are original people. So it had a lot of weird twist to the movie, really weird twist. But it was a really good screenplay, and he got the Oscar. And what I want to come from right now, the point that I want to make here is how important is the Oscar to black actors and entertainers. It seems like we don't feel that we have any validation unless white daddy decides to give us the Oscar. Now, just a year ago, or just a year ago or two, if I'm not mistaken, we as black people in this country were saying that Oscar was white. You know, basically white actors tend to get all the love and all the attention for what they do, and black actors don't get much attention for our achievements, or for their achievements for that matter. And what I'm here to tell you is that we as black people have to stop looking for white Hollywood to validate us. It's great that Jordan Peele won the Oscar, but if you look at what an Oscar has done for most black actors statistically, other than Samuel L. Jackson and, you know, the man Denzel Washington, other than those two brothers, overall, the Oscar has not really translated into great movie roles, great opportunity for black actors and actresses. In some cases, once they win the Oscar, they'll get a little bit of buzz and they may be in a few movies here and there, but it really never transforms their career completely. All you got to do is look at Monique right now. She won an Oscar for the movie Precious, which I did not like. I did not like what Lee Daniels did with that movie Precious, but here it is to be. It's either here or there. The movie was produced. She acted in it. She got an Oscar for that. And right now, Monique finds herself in a situation where she got lowballed by Netflix. And she has not been very happy about that. And she's been all over the social media expressing what went on with that, her opinion, how she's being marginalized, treated. She talked about racism and some sexism there. But if you look at most black people like Monique, when they win the Oscar, it doesn't really translate to big time success. Halle Berry, she played in Monster Ball, won an Oscar for a horrible role. She won an Oscar for being sleeping with a police officer or a correctional officer who was about to be involved in executing her. I think it's her, either her brother or her boyfriend that was in prison, played by one Puffy Combe. So if you look at all the roles, even Denzel Washington should have won the Oscar, in my opinion, for Malcolm X. Instead, they give him an Oscar for playing a crooked cop in Training Day. They give him an Oscar for supporting actor for playing a slave in Glory and getting whipped in his back. Okay, so a lot of times they give Oscars to black people, and it doesn't really translate to a grand success. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't translate. You know, it gives you a little buzz, little bit of success in the beginning, but eventually they sort of fade away from black entertainers. And one of the things that I find interesting in Hollywood is that they can only deal with one, as I would say, Negro at a time, meaning we can't all be successful. You can't all be hot at one time. When you look at white actors, Nicole Kidman's, okay, these type of actors, they can all be hot at one time. They can all blow up, be on all the magazines. But when it comes to Hollywood, they sort of they pick and choose who they want to be hot. I remember Wesley Snipes was very hot after he did New Jack City. He was getting some roles, and then his success kind of sizzled out as they got tired of him. And then they went on to the next Negro. I think they sort of got very excited about Samuel L. Jackson for a moment, and he's been having some success. He's been able to keep the stride. But look how long it took Samuel L. Jackson to get to his career now. He had to play a crack addict, okay, in Jungle Fever. Him and Halle Berry were in that scene where they both were crack addicts, okay? So it seems like black people, when we get recognized in cinema, it's always either because we played a thug. You look at Wesley Snipes, he played a thug, he played a drug lord. Denzel Washington wins an Oscar for playing a corrupt police officer. Halle Berry has to show her behind and sleep with someone in an animalistic way. Even Monique, when she got her Oscar, she had to play this sort of dysfunctional mother, this sort of very bad stereotype that most people in this society, when they think of black women, now let me say some people in this society, when they think about black women, will have that sort of view. And particularly when it comes to what you would call your heavier set or full-figured black women, they tend to portray them as angry, sloppy, out of control, dysfunctional. And she wins an Oscar in that role. Traditionally, black people, when we make movies or play in movies as actors, we don't get the just credit when we do really, really informative and really positive roles. They seem to want to acknowledge us when we're negative. Look at Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard won an Oscar, or he got nominated to win an Oscar. He didn't win the Oscar, but he got nominated when he was in that movie, It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. He was in a movie where there was a song, It's Really Hard Out Here for a Pimp. And he played a pimp in a movie in which he got a lot of buzz. He got Oscar buzz. And I believe even the rap group who sung that song, that It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, I think it was Mob Deep or something. I think they were called Mob Deep. They won an Oscar for what I would say a very destructive in a song that's not very positive. So Terrence Howard, he gets a little bit of shine from the Oscars, even though he didn't win. And then his career took off a little bit more by playing a very stereotypical role, which in the history of cinema, Hollywood has always portrayed black people as coons and bucks and mammies. If you ever read the book, it's a very important book that you should read. It's called, just what I was saying just a minute ago, there's a book called Coons, Bucks, and Mammies, History of Cinema, Black People as it relates to cinema in the history of American society. And historically, we have been stereotyped, we have been mistreated and misrepresented in cinema. And black men's masculinity has always been destroyed in cinema. When you look at the black exploitation films, the biopics, you had the Superfly, where you had a image of a black man being a hustler, okay, selling drugs. All those exploitation films were the type of films that were only opportunities that black people were given in Hollywood. Okay, you had Amos and Annie. Any of you out there, millennials out there, Amos and Annie originally started as a radio show that was portrayed by white men talking and mimicking and acting as if they were black, which later spinned into a television show in which you had an all-black cast. Amos and Annie. It's a very historical, it was the only role that they would allow black people to play in Hollywood movies. Okay, specifically Hollywood movies. These sort of stereotypical buffoonish Stepin Fetchit roles. And there was a man named Stepin Fetchit who would always be this docile black man. Oh, the master and all that kind of talk. You saw him in cinema. So these are some of the history of cinema as it relates to black people, how we've been treated in cinema. And this is why I'm going to argue and keep arguing that black people need to have and make our own movies and create our own movie studios to produce our own movies about ourselves. If you look at the Chinese, they have a powerful movie companies and movie industry in China because the Chinese only allow films to be made for them, by them, about them, and they don't allow any other, they don't allow Western influence to influence their films. Even when Bruce Lee was alive, he was very successful because he always made movies where he portrayed himself as a hero fighting against the West. He would always be whooping someone like Chuck Norris, a white, a white villain, and the Chinese loved that. They loved seeing themselves in a positive, powerful manner. Black people, we need to have that execution in America, produce our own films. Now, let me give you a little history of the first movie film company in American society, because there was a time in America when black people were not allowed to be in Hollywood proper films, right? So there's this history in which you had what you call race films. And these race films were primarily produced, directed by black filmmakers and black film studios to produce movies that were uplifting for black people. One of the first companies was Lincoln Motion Picture Company. Lincoln Motion Picture Company was the first black movie production company in the country. Lincoln Motion Picture Company was founded in 1916 by John Brothers Nobles and George. Everything the brothers put out was directed with black people, African-American viewers in mind. Okay. They showed their movies in churches and small assembly halls. We could be doing the same thing today, black folks. You got crowdfunding today. You got people like Tariq making films, Hidden Colors films. You've got my man Jason Black of the Black Channel coming out with Race War. He's done Gentrified, he's done 7 a.m., and he's producing that movie and asking for crowdfunding and support. I plan to support what the brother's doing, okay? Now, it states in the history is that they would show their movies, like I said, in churches and small assembly halls, although they did not last. Now, their film company did not last. They produced, I think, 5 films in all. But they were the ones, the Lincoln Motion Picture Company, along with Johnson Brothers and Nobles and George. They are the ones that paved the way for what you have today with Tyler Perry, Spike Lee, and many other filmmakers that I'm afraid that I have not mentioned. Names don't come to mind readily. But these brothers are the ones of Lincoln Motion Pictures Company. They paved the way for the future of African-American films as we know it today. They would hit the scene in the 1940s. Okay, so filmmakers that would hit the scene in 1940s. So in the 1940s, you had black filmmakers as well, and they got their origins from Lincoln Film Company. Let me educate you. We know that Oprah Winfrey has the Harpo production company in which she produces movies. Oprah Winfrey closed her film production studio, Harpo, by the end of the year. The company has been around since 1986, so she's actually maybe going through some financial issues with her company, but as I said, she's closed the company. It was around since 1986. This is part of the problem. Black people, we need to have, and then of course, everyone knows Tyler Perry has a film studio and company based out of Atlanta, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And just to give you a little inside scoop here, the movie Black Panther, some of that movie was produced on Halle Berry's film studio in Atlanta. So some of the Black Panther film some of the production was produced at Todd Perry Studios. So we know what Todd Perry's about, what he's been doing. Let's see. Let me go into a little bit more. Now, let me pull back up here. I got something I want to read here. Now, there are some other black film companies out there, because my argument is that black people, we need to support each other, and we need to produce our own films, our own TV shows, our own production. We need TV networks. BET's not getting it. It's not black owned anymore. It's owned by Viacom, I think, cable, or Comcast cable, or TV One is not all black owned. You've got white board members. You look at Roland Martin right now. Excuse me, folks. Roland Martin at this time is his show, his TV show, his news show has been downsized. Okay. So we don't really have black people. We don't really have any mediums that we really control. The Root, I believe, is owned by Telemundo or Univision, which is Spanish. Essence has just now become owned by black people again. Jet is, I guess, on the internet now. It's gone. Ebony is not owned by anybody black. I mean, Brother Johnson would be turning in his grave today if he knew that his company that he started is no longer really black owned. Okay, we're losing grip on traditional media that we once controlled and operated. And this is why I would argue that the old black media is dying and the new black media is such as what I'm doing here, using the platforms. We've got Phil of the Avise Show on YouTube, who does really great stories on YouTube, brings up news, brings up issues that are happening in our society today. Let me move on and name another black film company that you may not be familiar with. It's called Cold Black Entertainment. Cold Black Entertainment was founded in 2005. Cold Black Entertainment is run by Jeff Clagon, and is the first independent versatile and integrated film studio owned by an African American. The company is involved with feature film productions, film distribution. Now, film distribution is very important, okay, because that's where the money is, that's where the control is. And I hope that my man Jordan Peele, who won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, I hope he has complete control of Get Out. And I hope that he was able to benefit financially, as he should, from the proceeds of this movie, since he produced it. He came up with the idea, because Hollywood has a history of stealing ideas and stealing writers and some of the creativity that black people produce. When you look at the movie The Matrix, there was a black woman that produced that movie, and they completely ripped off her screenplay from her. And I think she's been in a lawsuit over the years trying to recoup some sort of income or benefits from her original screenplay. So we've got the company called Cold Black. So definitely check them out. Once again, it's Cold Black Entertainment. That is a black-owned production movie producing company. Been around for a while now. And then another one that we have here, let me break it down to you, is called Open Rivers Pictures. Open Rivers Pictures made history as the first African-American female, and this is powerful, first African-American female-owned studio for films and television, as well as post-production facilities. Okay, Georgia. Okay, now this company is this company. The facilities were in Georgia in November of 2012. Okay, the company focuses on the creation of development, production, original content. Okay, like documentaries, comedy series, programming for children. Very important that we have good programming and content for children, as well as sitcoms. So they've been around for a while. According to the CEO and founder of the company, Tommy Williams, with aggressive growth across the digital platform and the launch of several cable and channels targeted to African American communities, it makes great business sense to grow. Open Rivers Pictures is in the direction of developing more original content within our own facilities, their own facilities, basically. I'm reading a little bit, so that's why I'm kind of sounding a little choppy here. The services, these individual distribute outlets. So that's what's going on. You got a couple of movie production companies. I remember Jim Brown talked about trying to build a movie studio along with one Richard Pryor. And he said that Richard Pryor had really hurt him because Richard Pryor was on the drugs and had some issues. And so the dream of a black-owned movie studio, production company, and movie studio that would have been Richard Pryor and Jim Brown hitting this together would have been a powerful institution for us to have today. So I'm going to say right there that black people in general, we don't need Hollywood to validate us. Whatever we put our minds to, we're very powerful. We are original people. We operate at a higher frequency. We vibrate at a higher frequency because we are original beings of this world, of this universe. And so whatever we put our minds to when given opportunity, we will excel. Okay? I'm sure that there's plenty of other Jordan Peeles out there. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other sisters out there who have great screenplays that they're trying to get out there. And if we have more black production companies, there will be more opportunity for black people who write, who direct, and who act. Because Hollywood is not going to always put us on point. You've got Kevin Hart, who appears to be the only black top comedian because he gets all the roles, as if there are no other black comedians who are just as good as he is or better. I argue that there are some that are better, but they're not getting opportunity because white people cannot, white Hollywood, I must keep this real, they just can't deal with more than one of us at a time when it comes to us being successful in the entertainment business. They have to pick and choose which Negro to put up on a pedestal. So I would say that Jordan Peele will be that Negro right now. He will have the doors open to him to produce more movies. They're going to be looking for him to fail, fall on his face, or excel, and make sure that they make that money. Okay? So keep that in mind. With that said, that's my observation about the Oscars. I did not watch the Oscars because it just doesn't reflect us. Even though you've had a few black films that came out, Black Panther wasn't able to be nominated. And I was, and Get Out was a good movie on a psychological level, what it really means when you really break it down as it relates to when you look at the genetic survival, white people being concerned about their genetic survival. When you look at a sister like Frances Crescent Welsing, who came out with the ISIS paper, make sure you read the ISIS paper because it gives you a lot of breakdown of what this is really all about. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to keep putting out more hitting content, more and more, and report issues that can enlighten one's mind and open up one's mind. Just keep this in mind. We don't need Hollywood to be successful in entertainment because it's already been proven in 1916, the Lincoln Film Company was successful for a short time, and you've had many other black filmmakers. I think Gordon Parks, who was a Renaissance man, he wrote poetry, he did art, and he also produced the Shaft movies. Gordon Parks was a great man, and he's also independent in his execution towards that which is creative. So, black people, just keep that in mind. We don't need Hollywood. The Oscar is so white as it was a few years before. I don't really get excited just because they give an Oscar to one black person this year or that year. At the end of the day, black people don't control Hollywood. We don't control the mechanisms. We're not on the boards. We don't make decisions, which is why a lot of times black people in Hollywood, unless you are certain people, and only certain untouchable people right now are Denzel Washington and Samuel L. Jackson. But overall, black people in this country and in this society and in Hollywood are marginalized, underestimated, and undervalued. So think about that as we get excited about Jordan Peele winning the Oscar for the best overall original screenplay, Get Out, which was a good movie, by the way, in my opinion. Psychologically, on a psychological level, black people keep meditating, keep vibrating on a high frequency. I'm out.